It all takes place out at Crystal Lake, that pleasant little camp where happy children of all ages go to spend a fun-filled summer. But this summer will be different. The fun will have to wait. Jason has decided to come to camp, and terror is the only game they'll be playing. Only you can stop this terror and forest fire. You and your 6 camp counselors can prevent Jason from running wild. It's not an easy task. You must first fight your way through forests filled with man-eating wolves, caves covered with blood-sucking bats, and hordes of mindless zombies at every turn. If a friend is in danger, it's up to you to help, or else you can just kiss them goodbye. Jason doesn't play favorites. He'll take anyone. Don't think that hiding in a cabin or staying adrift in a canoe will keep you safe. The only way to survive this summer is to challenge Jason face to face and destroy him. Don't worry that it hasn't been done before. There's always a first time. Well, not always. Well, it had to happen eventually, and we're finally getting around to doing Friday the 13th. I'm going to tell you something shocking, viewers. Shocking. This game was a joint production between LJN and Atlas. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute because some of you are familiar with Atlas and their games. Some of you are not. If you are not, go look up the Atlas game library and then you'll think, why did they do this? But ours is not to reason why. Ours is to just say that this is Friday the 13th from Atlas and LJN and released in 1989. It's an action-adventure-y kind of game. It was published by LJN and developed by Atlas. And oddly enough, may be hard to believe, but it's an adaptation of the Friday the 13th franchise. It was released in North America exclusively as part of LJN's focus on creating video games based on movie licenses and stuff. We talked about Jaws last time. We talked about Beetlejuice, right? This is another in that string. It's considered by some people to be one of the worst games of all time. Yeah. Nintendo Power called it one of the worst. Game Informer called it one of the worst. It's a really bad rendition. A lot of critics have said that, and honestly, it is pretty bad. Yeah, it's just pretty bad. We get to control one of 6 camp counselors. Each of them has a varying level of speed and jumping ability in a side-scrolling perspective. We start with an arcing rock attack, and the goal is to find and defeat Jason 3 times. Along the paths, we will find cabins, a lake, caves, a wooded area, and all but the cabins have enemies like zombies, crows, and wolves. We may upgrade their weapons upon finding a new one, which seems to happen fairly randomly by jumping. A timed alarm appears at certain intervals, requiring players to find Jason because he kills one or more children or another counselor. And using the map, we must navigate our way to Jason's location or switch out to the counselor being attacked and defeat him. If they do not make it there in time, Jason will kill the counselors or some of the children. Upon nearing Jason's location, Jason may appear on the path or in the lake and attack the player. While inside the cabin, Jason will attack the player in a way reminiscent of Punch-Out. It's an over-the-shoulder view, pretty much. Players may light the fireplaces in larger cabins. Upon lighting all the fireplaces, a flashlight and torch weapon are available. Notes are found in some larger cabins, leading you to other notes in other locations, eventually leading you to new items. The objective is the game is to survive for 3 days and nights while attempting to find and kill Jason. Players may battle Jason's mother, who is in a hidden locked room in the cave. She's represented as a Medusa-like floating head that swoops down to attack the player. Navigating in the woods or cave can be confusing as they are set up purposely to disorient the player. They hide several locked rooms and cabins. If all counselors or children die, the game is over. So, It's been regarded, as we've said, as one of the worst games of all time. Game Informer lists it among the worst horror games of all time. Andy Slavin called it a horrible translation of the films. Michigan Daily's Matt Grandstaff, I don't think that's his real name, called it a poor offering. GamePro listed it as the 10th worst video game based on a film, criticizing its repetitive music score and amazingly frustrating gameplay. Game Radar's Michael Raparaz criticized its box, commenting that only LJN would ever think to surround Jason Voorhees with neon pastel vomit, thereby making him even more of an 80s relic than he already is. Christopher Grant commented that the game was more terrible than the deaths of the campers in the first Friday the 13th film, calling it craptacular. IGN's Levi Buchanan used the game as an example of LGN's poor development abilities. The book Vintage Games, an insider look at the history of Grand Theft Auto, Super Mario, and the most influential games of all time. That's not too long a title, right? Criticizes it for not being frightening, citing technical reasons for this. The authors of Nintendo Power rated it the 6th worst game ever made in the 1997 issue, September 1997 issue. The writer for the article saying, after playing a few minutes of this aardvark, you wanted Jason to slaughter all the counselors and then you. Anything, so it would just end. And Joystick's James Ransom Wiley noted it as a game that the staff loved to hate. The Daily News of Los Angeles, however, noted it as a hit. Now, here's my thing about games like this, and it applies with Beetlejuice, it applies with Jaws. I have a problem rating a game poorly if it's based on a movie, because usually the movies they're based on are pretty crap. Friday the 13th may be a classic series, but the movies are pretty crap. There's no gameplay in a movie. Obviously, it's a movie. So I don't think you can compare the standards of the two. The gameplay in this game, honestly, is not too bad. The controls are decent. The menus are a little goofy. The music, while repetitive, isn't bad. There are other games that have music just as repetitive, if not more so than this. So I can't look at it and say, yeah, the music in this game is horrible. It's a below average game that I think gets a lot of extra negativity pushed upon it because it gets compared so heavily to the movie, because it was based so closely around the ideas in the first movie. It's not the game's fault, but yeah, it's pretty bad.